Please help me welcome Barbara Corcoran.
Recognition is so much more powerful than money. I never had enough money. I always overdid in recognition. I remember standing in front of my salespeople who the average sale price in my firm was probably roughly $250, okay, which is a typical two-bedroom at that time in New York City. But I remember standing in front of them and saying, you know what, we're going to start becoming million-dollar deal makers. All the people, million-dollar deal makers, that's for the big guys, the big firms. We don't do that kind of business. And I said, and I'm going to give $1 million gold ribbon to everybody who makes $1 million deal, those big horse ribbons. And I had printed on the face, you know, not first place, second place, but $1 million. And I said, the first guy to make $1 million deal gets this ribbon. Everybody laughed. I had produced maybe 50 ribbons. I was optimistic. They laughed, what a stupid idea. Do you know I had my first $1 million deal in 3 weeks? And guess who owned the apartment? One of the Getty families, and guess what it sold for? Over $3 million, which today is like $35 million. And guess who sold it? An ice skater, a young ice skater who happened to get the lead from his dentist who was cleaning one of the Getty's teeth. But he went in and pitched the listings with confidence, acted like he belonged there, got the listing, and I publicly awarded him on a makeshift stage his $1 million ribbons, and there was no turning back. The fierce competition among my salespeople to be $1 million salesperson was unbelievable overnight. And you know what? It almost became an embarrassment if you didn't have $1 million ribbons on your bulletin board where you sat within 3 years. Everybody had $1 million ribbons. Why did it work? No higher commissions, nothing special, but public recognition and a hokey idea. Okay? So my point there is recognition is far more powerful than money.
Please help me welcome Dr. J.J. Irani.
Years or so in the Tata group. You might have talked about it earlier. But I would just like to spend a minute or two to show you that the principles of business management have evolved through the ages. There are just 3-4 examples here. The first is Genghis Khan. He had his own management principles and also quite different from ours. Those who didn't agree with him, off with the head. That existed 1,500 years ago. After that, coming through the ages, we had a corporation in India. Some of you might have heard of it. It was called the East India Company, and it lasted for almost 3 centuries. And that was a corporation which changed the world. And if we think now that there is a lot of intrigue going on in the Middle East or wherever, one has got to read this book, written by an Englishman, by the way. I read it only 2 years back, to understand that we come a poor second as far as intrigue and management is concerned. The English had perfected it 3 centuries back. And their guiding principle was divide and rule. And here, of course, we are now trying to get everyone united together.
Please help me in welcoming Brian Joyner.
You know, people ask me to define sustainability, and it's one of those things that there's no perfect definition for it. This is my favorite definition: the ability of people to meet their needs without impacting the ability of future generations to meet their needs. Now, we all know the definition of quality. There's no perfect definition, but this is a very good definition. Who is my customer? What do they want? How can we provide what they want with the least waste and inefficiency? Now, we look at quality about like this. Quality focuses on the health of processes and outputs. Now, what's missing from that? Answer: externalities. Quality leaves out the externalities. Quality focuses on the product and the process. Sustainability focuses on the externalities, the byproducts. Now, there are lots of other things in sustainability, but in terms of business, that's really where sustainability comes into play. So it's like you have a pipe or a tunnel, and you're working in this sort of, you know, you can barely translucent tunnel that you can see a little bit out of, but mainly you're focused on what's inside the tunnel, which are the problems with the product and the problems with the process, and trying to fix that and make that work better. But just outside, there's all this other stuff, like where are the materials coming from that you use, or where's the energy coming from that gives you the energy to do the job, all that. What's happening to the byproducts of what you're doing? Where are they going?
Please help me welcome Bennie Fowler.
Thank you, Dave. Our structure, starting from the board of directors, the office of chief executive where Bill Ford sits, and a business plan review and a special attention report. Now I want to just stop to talk to you a little bit about the business plan review and what we call the SAR, or special attention review. Every Thursday, that leadership team that I talked to you about, we're together for about 6 hours. 2.5 hours. We can get around the world where all the functions and all the business units report out in 2.5 hours. And then we decide together what areas of the business need special attention. So we don't try to work out the problems in that meeting. We have a standard way that we look at the information right down to the font size of how we report out and what's expected of us as leaders. And I'll come back and talk to you about that standardization, because that standardization, while some people might say it's controlling, is one of the keys to our business success.